So we spend a lot of time thinking about our bodies, physical health and all that.
We really do. Diet, exercise, it's everywhere.
But what about the actual control center, the mind?
Exactly. And for you listening, always wanting to get to the heart of things quickly and, well, deeply, that's what we're diving into today. The power of the mind.
We've got some fascinating source material here, right? A talk that really digs into it.
That's right. A really thought-provoking talk exploring what the mind is and maybe more importantly, how understanding it can actually, make a difference in your life.
So the mission today is to pull out those key ideas for you.
Yep. Give you clarity, maybe some actionable insights.
Okay, let's get into it. The talk kicks off with this really interesting image. An emperor hidden under clothes.
Yes, the emperor and his 5 garments. It's a great metaphor.
How does that work?
Well, think of the emperor as the mind itself.
Yeah.
Powerful, the one in charge, but often hidden from view.
Okay.
And the 5 garments. They represent our 5 physical senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch.
So the senses are like layers covering up the mind.
Pretty much. The idea is that they can actually obscure the mind's true nature, its underlying power.
Like the constant noise from the senses drowns out the emperor.
You could say that. We're so caught up in seeing, hearing, feeling, all the input, that we might miss the core power source.
So how do we take off the robes, so to speak?
That's where practices like meditation come in.
Yeah.
The talk really highlights this.
Right. By intentionally quieting the senses.
Exactly. You withdraw attention from the outside world, what you see, hear, feel.
Like closing your eyes to focus, that's taking off the sight garment temporarily.
Precisely. And it can go deeper. And meditation sometimes sounds just fade away. Even the feeling of your body, touch, can become less noticeable.
Wow. So you can actually turn down the volume on your senses.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
The talk mentions the ultimate silencing is, well, death, obviously.
Thankfully, there's another way.
Right. Thankfully, meditation offers a more practical route to explore what's underneath the senses, a glimpse behind that curtain.
Okay, so if quieting the senses reveals this power, what does that power actually look like? Are there real-world examples?
Oh, definitely. And this is where it gets really compelling, I think. The talk brings up the placebo effect.
Ah, yes, the mind over matter stuff.
It's incredible, isn't it? Just believing a treatment works can cause real physical changes.
The cyclist's example was amazing, performing better at high altitude with basically empty oxygen tanks.
It shows the mind's direct impact, pushing past what we think are physical limits.
And the knee surgery patients? Getting better, even with sham operations, just the belief was enough.
It really underscores that mind-body connection. It's not just the mind watching, it's actively involved.
The speaker in our first material had a personal story about this too, right? Something about a wall disappearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Meditating with eyes open in a Zen monastery. Suddenly the wall in front just wasn't there perceptually.
How does that even happen?
Well, the explanation given is pretty interesting. It's like, if there's no movement, no change for the eyes to track. The sense of sight can kind of switch off. Like a computer screensaver when nothing's happening, the mind stops processing the static image.
Wild. To think that sight can just disengage like that.
And apparently, similar things can happen with hearing in profound silence. It just fades out.
And even touch. That seems like a really strong sense to lose.
Even touch. The speaker mentions that in deep meditation, the feeling of the body itself can diminish or disappear entirely. And this is someone who, has experienced physical discomforts.
So, if the 5 senses, our usual windows on the world, can fade, what's left? What is this true nature of mind the talk gets into?
Well, according to this view, what remains is the mind itself, unfiltered.
And what's that like?
It's described as being beyond the usual labels we stick on ourselves.
Like gender, race, nationality, age. The talk mentioned those.
Exactly. Those are seen as characteristics of the body, the garments, not the mind, the emperor underneath.
So the mind itself is ageless.
Yeah.
Genderless.
Fundamentally, yes. Think about moments of pure joy or intense focus. Sometimes you kind of forget your age or background, right? That's maybe a tiny glimpse.
Interesting. There's another powerful personal story about this, isn't there? Overcoming a serious illness.
Yes, the account of recovering from scrub typhus fever using meditation. It's quite remarkable.
It really suggests the mind can have a profound impact on physical sickness.
It does. And the context from a very basic hospital, no night nurse, really highlights relying on inner resources.
There was that human touch to struggling to feel kindness for the difficult nurse.
Yeah, that keeps it real, doesn't it? It's not about being perfect, even for experienced practitioners. still human.
And the teacher's advice was pretty blunt. Get better or die.
Intense. But it shows the focus needed, and then the experience itself.
Meditating with a high fever? I think that's impossible.
Apparently not. The speaker describes finding this peaceful, pain-free state within the mind, even while the body was very sick.
That really challenges how we usually think about illness and meditation. It implies the mind isn't just stuck with the body's condition.
Exactly. Which leads to a bigger philosophical point the talk raises about materialism.
The idea that consciousness is just a byproduct of the brain.
Right. The talk questions that. If the feeling of the body can disappear in meditation, but awareness remains sharp, what is that awareness? Where is it?
Is it separate from the physical?
That's the implication. The analogy used is the body being like a car, a vehicle.
And the mind is the driver.
Something like that. The mind uses the body, but isn't necessarily limited to it or solely produced by it.
Which definitely opens up some interesting possibilities, like what happens after the body isn't functioning anymore?
Exactly. The talk touches on the idea that the mind might, well, continue. Which could be one way to think about experiences people have of sensing loved ones who've passed.
It's heading into more speculative territory there.
It is, and it's presented that way. But there are these stories, like the boy in Yugoslavia.
Oh, the one who was clinically dead on the operating table.
Yes, and apparently somehow influenced the doctors mentally to take actions that saved him. It's an extraordinary anecdote.
Truly extraordinary. And there was another one about someone leaving their body.
The story of a former convict who claimed he could consciously leave his body, again an anecdote, but it pushes the boundaries of what we think the mind can do.
These are definitely out there examples. What about things we can experience more directly?
Good point. The talk includes a sort of interactive exercise, which is quite revealing.
The one about locating happiness.
Yeah. Try to pinpoint where happiness or misery is physically located in your body, your arm, your leg.
You can't really. You might feel sensations associated with it, but the feeling itself isn't in a specific part.
Exactly. Joy, laughter, inspiration, they arise in the mind. They aren't produced by your elbow or your knee.
So the mind is the source of these states.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And there's even been some scientific research, like the Pee Your Ear project mentioned, looking into the mind's influence on physical systems.
And practically speaking, training the mind through something like meditation isn't just for feeling calm.
No, the talk emphasizes benefits like more energy, more joy, clearer perception. The speaker meditates before giving talks, for instance.
To be more focused and receptive.
Seems so. It connects to that other story about walking up the hill to the monastery.
Ah, right. Noticing so much more beauty in nature when walking slowly compared to driving past in a car.
Yes. It perfectly illustrates the idea. Slowing down the sensory input, the rush
Taking off the emperor's clothes again.
Exactly. It allows the mind the space to actually perceive, to appreciate, to feel that sense of wonder that's often drowned out.
The talk then shifted to address some audience questions, which brought up some really practical stuff.
Yes, a good range out-of-body experiences dealing with loneliness, family obligations, fear, even dreams coming true.
What was the take on out-of-body experiences? People are often fascinated by those.
Acknowledge the fascination, definitely, but also a caution against getting too attached or fixated. Apparently they can become, well, a bit boring after a while.
Boring, really.
And potentially raise ethical questions about, privacy if you're popping into other people's spaces mentally. So, interesting, but maybe not the ultimate goal.
Okay. What about feeling lonely, like during quarantine? That hit home for many.
The advice was about reframing it. Instead of focusing on separation, look at the potential positives of solitude, cultivating self-love, inner connection.
Like listing the pros and cons? That sounds practical.
Yeah, a concrete exercise to shift perspective, finding the good, even in difficult circumstances.
Then there was the question about doing religious things for family, even if you don't fully believe yourself.
The suggestion there was really about compassion, doing it out of love and connection for your family, rather than getting hung up on personal belief or doctrine.
So focusing on the relationship aspect.
Exactly. Kindness first. Then there was fear, specifically fear of a virus.
How did the talk address that?
By suggesting perspective.
Yeah.
Like holding your hand right in front of your eyes, it blocks everything else. Don't let the fear dominate your whole view.
Remember the bigger picture. Human resilience.
Right. Think about history. People getting through incredibly tough times, like the Blitz example used, and the analogy of the cracked glass.
Reminding us life is fragile.
Fragile, precious, and that we need to care for each other because of that fragility.
What about dreams? Dreams that seem to come true.
Ah, yes, those mysterious ones. The talk shared a couple of really striking anecdotes.
So one with the 5 angels and the horse.
Yeah, the man dreams of 5 angels and pots of gold. Then a series of 5 coincidences happen, culminating in a horse named 5 angels coming in 5th.
That's uncanny. And the other one, about the marriage prediction.
A medium apparently told a woman she'd marry someone named Donald Wolfe Reese, a very specific, unusual name, and later she did.
Wow. So what's the explanation?
Well, the speaker didn't offer a definitive one, mentioned possibilities like karma or maybe just natural processes we don't understand yet, acknowledged the mystery, really.
Get from open mind. Okay, final question, Ari. Observing our own thoughts, especially negative ones like anger.
Right. The key point was that anger often feels directed outward, at someone or something else.
But the advice was?
To hold up the mirror of mindfulness.
Yeah.
See what the anger is doing to you, how it feels inside you.
Shift the focus inward.
Exactly. And that connects to the idea that our thinking mind, our labels, can actually obscure reality.
The example about the stars was beautiful.
Knowing all the names of the constellations, the science, but losing the ability to just see the beauty, the wonder, until you forget the labels.
So the thinking mind gets in the way sometimes.
It can. The suggestion is to cultivate a quieter, more silent, non-judgmental mind to truly perceive beauty and reality as it is.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, the big takeaway seems to be really appreciating the depth and power of our own minds.
Absolutely. Understanding that it's potentially more than just brain chemistry, that it's distinct in some way from the physical body and incredibly capable.
And grasping that can actually change how you experience things day to day.
It really can. It opens up possibilities for managing difficulties, increasing joy, and seeing the world and yourself perhaps a bit differently.
So we hope you, listening, take some time to mull over these ideas. Think about your own mind, its potential.
How might this understanding shift things for you?
And maybe a final thought to leave you with.
If the mind really does have these deep capacities, maybe even extending beyond the physical, what other untapped potential might be waiting inside you, just waiting to be discovered?